Hey everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Grow Up. Welcome to our Netflix's The I-Land Thoughts video. I just finished watching the 7-episode limited series that was recently added to Netflix, and I'm going to be sharing my non-spoiler and spoiler thoughts on the series. So yes, this is a limited series that was just recently added about a group of people who mysteriously wash up or turn up on an island, and they don't have any memories of who they are, or how they ended up there, or what they're supposed to do, and from there, stuff ensues. So yes, this was just a pretty interesting premise to begin with, just this bunch of people on an island. The trailer gave hints that there was something more going on, and when you start watching the show, you get that feeling right away, like, yeah, this seems a little too coincidental to be just something. And you learn pretty quickly that there is definitely more going on, but I won't talk too much about that until I get to the spoilers talk. But yes, non-spoiler thoughts about this is this show, it caught me more than I thought it was going to. I had my I thought it was an interesting premise from the trailer, but I wasn't 100% sure if I was gonna actually binge watch the whole thing this weekend or not. But after starting the first episode, in the first few seconds, they had me hooked. I was ready to check out the whole 7-episode miniseries. That also kind of helped, the fact that it did help kind of motivate me to watch this a little bit more, knowing that it was short and it was limited, and it's like these 7 episodes are all I have to worry about for it, and I can get through them quickly, not like a 10 episode or a 13 episode thing I had to try to quickly binge. So I like that it was shorter and a little bit sweeter in that sense. That caught me to check it out, and then it hooked me right away with the beginning of seeing like these people popping up on this island and not having a memory, and how they each react to this and their kind of base instincts that we see they kind of have a little bit of memory, in a sense of like they kind of remember certain skills that they've each had, but from there we kind of just go as they start to piece together what's going on. So I thought it hooked me right away, and I was intrigued to like find out what they're going to do with these 7 episodes, what's going to go on with this island. And I thought it was really interesting and really just a really great premise and story throughout this season that kept me hooked. I'm trying to avoid major spoilers to begin with, revolving around it. It is like I said, 7 episodes, limited series, so trying to talk about too many of the episodes is like talking about a 7th of the whole series. So it's hard to like pick and choose what stuff's essential to the story and what's going to give away kind of fun surprises that you discover watching this, because it's like I said, the trailer doesn't give you too much. You get a kind of idea that there's more going on than just this island, but you're not really sure. And so that's kind of part of the fun of this show, is kind of watching and kind of learning with these characters who have no memory of or any kind of reason, or don't have any kind of knowledge as to why they're on this island and what's going on. And as they slowly piece it together, you're piecing it together too, trying to figure it out. And so I really enjoyed that aspect to this short limited series. The name is slightly confusing. It's called, I refer to it as the I-Land because that's how it seems to be spelled. But in the show itself, they seem to be referring to that I is actually the Roman numeral 1. So is it One Land, but then it'd be The One Land, which seems like a weird title for it. So it's just a weird all-around thing going on with that. But some of the other things, I thought this was a really, really intriguing world that they built. Without spoiling too much, I thought that this was just a really interesting premise that they build once we learn what's going on with this island and the other things behind it. That just the world that this kind of exists in. It's really interesting. I wanted to learn more about it. Maybe not even following these characters, but another story in this world would be interesting to kind of find out, which kind of leads me to another thought, which is this felt very much just like 7 episodes of an extended Black Mirror episode, if that makes sense. So yeah, this was a very Black Mirror type premise to this story, and just kind of felt like maybe they had written the script for an episode of Black Mirror. It ended up being but to like kind of fully flesh out this story, it had to be longer than obviously the 1 episode, which they usually do with Black Mirror. So I feel like that's kind of maybe where this kind of originated, where this kind of came from, but maybe it's something completely else. But I thought it was really interesting that it had that feel. At least I haven't watched all of Black Mirror, but it does definitely have that feel of the technology and kind of weird future stuff going on. So I thought it was just really intriguing, the connection. The characters who are in this are all fucked. That's the kind of nicest way to put it without spoiling too much stuff. But put a bunch of people on an island and you will maybe sometimes see the worst of humanity, is the kind of nicest way to put it, but they're all kind of great at in their roles, playing what they are. Kind of, if that makes sense. That's hard to really talk about the characters because again, even things about the characters is a spoiler for this show because it's partly about them learning about themselves too. So, but yeah, the characters were both, like I said, they're within the story, they're fucked up human beings. But I thought that the actors did a great job of, making me believe that they were fucked up human beings, if that makes sense. Sorry for the language, though. But yeah, the only kind of complaint I really had about this one is, considering it was a limited series, I felt the last episode was a little rushed. I felt they kind of wrapped it up a little. Maybe it was just because I watched this show all through today and it just felt like I got through it really quickly. It was shorter, but it did feel, I still have a few questions regarding this series, regarding this world and the characters and etc, etc. So that's the only kind of negative I really have to say about this series is, yeah, I could have, this is the one time I would have been like, yeah, I could use one more episode Netflix, but at the same time I still thought it was really well done for a limited series. Kind of, it still ended, even though I have some questions, those questions aren't because they didn't tie things up. It was more so because they built an interesting world and had some interesting characters that I want to learn a little bit more about. So that's my only thing. They did a good job and I wanted a little bit more. It's kind of funny that this being a limited series, I don't want to say there's no hope for there being more, because with these companies, they'll always come up with a new reason. And like I said, I'd be happy to even just see another story within this same world, as we do with like an MCU type connection, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's all my non-spoilers I could be thoughts on the island. Now I'm going to talk about some spoiler stuff. So if you haven't checked out this series yet, I recommend it to you. If the trailer intrigues you even a little bit, I think you'll be pretty satisfied with the kind of mystery and the unfolding of this series. But yeah, and it's only 7 episodes. They're only like 45 minutes each, so you can bang it out in like an afternoon. But yeah, so my spoiler thoughts on this. So yeah, so if you haven't seen it, you want to click out now. But spoiler thoughts. So it was a simulation. I kind of thought so. I kind of suspected it. I think we all kind of did. The trailer did hint a little towards that this island is a simulation. But again, still spoiler for those of you who haven't logged off yet. But they're all prisoners in a prison, and this is death row? What? That's the premise that I really like. As we started to discover that I thought was really interesting. Like, oh, I didn't think of that as this island being a redemption simulation for individuals who are on death row, the worst of the worst, to see if they are able to be redeemed, if it's a nature versus nurture thing. When you take away their memories, are they still the terrible people they are? And some of them very much so are, and they get stabbed and they deserve it. But others, you eventually learn some of them are innocent. So, or one of them's innocent, at least just one actually. It was just one in the end that was innocent. But yeah, I thought it wasn't of all the like reasons that this was going to be a simulation, prisoners for some reason did not click to me. So that was just a fun little surprise, at least for me, that this was the thing, that this was the reason why they were all in this simulation and why their memories were erased and yada yada, etc, etc, pretty much this series. But yeah, some of the things, some spoiler stuff that I thought was kind of interesting. One of the things I thought was, these people are kind of stupid. I get their memories were wiped out before they're put on the island, but Chase is the only one who has any brains on top of her head. Everyone like accuses her of killing Brody right away, and it's like, wait, none of you thought to think like that she was smarter than that? Like, who leaves the murder weapon, like the no murder weapon in the person? Who leaves the body outside their own, like, where they're sleeping? It's just a whole lot of stupid things. That was a little bit like, okay, you guys need to calm down and think this through a little bit more. And I felt Chase also should have used that as an explanation, but that's also just writing stuff. But then again, that just shows how kind of invested I did get with some of these characters, even though they're just terrible people. All of them but Chase are just terrible, terrible human beings. But that's the point. They're all death row convicts who are trying to, well, not trying, they did technically volunteer, we learned near the end, so they are trying to redeem themselves unknowingly to them, though. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. Chase was she was a great character. She was badass, she was military trained, she was just kicking everybody's butt every which way, and I liked it. She wasn't taking no shit from nobody. She wasn't afraid to call out the rapist guy for being a rapist, and I was like, yeah, call the rapist. You gotta do that kind of shit. And then he got stabbed, and he deserved it. But yeah, I just thought she was really great, badass character. I like that we're following her throughout this whole thing, because she's the outlier in this group of conflicts. The one time this simulation didn't just go where all the convicts just kill each other. Something actually kind of came from this, but it didn't really come too soon for her. She was in prison for 25 years, which sucks. That was another one of those things I just did not see coming. I was ready for like the end to be like, oh yeah, you've been in a simulation the whole time, or like even as for like the very last few seconds, as like she's putting like serum in her, I thought she was gonna be like a robot or something. That's how like out there I was like, that's how out there my ideas were ready for this show. But the fact that she was just in there for 25 years is even just an interesting premise, just to be like. But again, that's one of those things that was kind of like, it also didn't feel like it added too much to the story. That's probably why I felt, I guess, it wrapped up really quickly, because they just added this, oh yeah, you've been in here 25 years actually, see ya. And it's like the world's different, and that's the part that I didn't like. That was a little bit like, you guys introduced this interesting world where it's the future, global warming's happened, and the oceans have risen, and the world's dealing with the aftermath of that, and you're just gonna end the show there. That's how you're gonna end the show. That was what I was frustrated with, that little bit of like, I want to know what's going on with this world where you guys come up with the island or one land to, to try to redeem convicted criminals, because the world's slowly filling up with water, so you're gonna run out of people eventually too. So that's just, it was just really interesting that they chose to kind of add that element that it's 25 years. It makes sense though too, is like because of all the technology we see within this show, that it's like it would have to be in the future, but making her character having had to been in prison for 25 years before the show technically even starts, and just adding that element to her character at the the last episode seemed just like a weird choice in my opinion. At least it didn't add too much to it, other than leaving us with this feeling, being like, well, what's going to happen to her now? She's going out into the world 25 years older than she sees herself as, or she thought she has, because now she doesn't have a memory of her whole life almost. And it's like, wait, what? Okay, I guess that's where you want to leave it. But I still, like I said, overall enjoyed this series, despite all this little bit of rant about that ending. But it's just because, like I said, I really enjoyed the world and the characters that they built up in this, and I just wanted to learn a little bit more. They just threw a couple too many questions at me at the end, or sparked my curiosity a little too much at the end. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. The overall premise, the characters, even though they were terrible, but they were well acted and they fit in the story, and I just really enjoyed like the world and all of it. I thought it was pretty well done. But yeah, that's all my thoughts on the I-Land, or One Land, or whatever it's actually pronounced or called, the island. That's all my thoughts. Be sure to though let me know in the comments below what you thought, if you're planning to check out the island, or what you thought of it if you have. But thanks again for joining me. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a good one.